Jacob Jeremiah Sullivan, born November 28, 1976, is an American political advisor who currently serves as the United States National Security Advisor to President Joe Biden. He was previously a senior policy advisor to Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential election campaign and her deputy chief of staff at the Department of State, when she was Secretary of State. Sullivan was also a senior advisor to the U.S. government for the Iran nuclear negotiations, a visiting professor at Yale Law School, and an unnamed foreign policy advisor. Sullivan worked in the Obama administration as deputy assistant to the president and the vice president's national security advisor, when Biden was U.S. vice president. He also served as the director of policy planning at the Department of State. On November 23, 2020, President-elect Biden announced that Sullivan would be appointed as his national security advisor. He took office January 20, 2021. Early life and education. Sullivan was born in Burlington, Vermont, and grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His father worked for the Star Tribune and was a professor at the University of Minnesota School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and his mother was a high school guidance counselor. Sullivan attended Southwest High School in Minneapolis, where he graduated in 1994. He was a Coca-Cola Scholar, debate champion, president of the Student Council, and voted most likely to succeed in his class. Sullivan attended Yale University, where he majored in international studies and political science and was awarded the Alpheus Henry Snow Prize. He was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa his senior year and graduated summa cum laude with distinction in 1998 with a Bachelor of Arts. Sullivan won a Rhodes Scholarship to attend Magdalen College, Oxford, where he studied international relations. He was awarded a Marshall Scholarship the same year but turned it down in favor of the Rhodes. While at Oxford, Sullivan served as a managing editor of the Oxford International Review and was on the second-place team at the 2000 World Universities Debating Championship in Sydney, Australia, and graduated with a Master of Philosophy. He graduated with a Juris Doctor from Yale Law School in 2003. At Yale, he was an editor of the Yale Law Journal and the Yale Daily News. He was a member of the Yale Debate Association and earned a Truman Scholarship in his junior year. He also worked for Brookings Institution President Strobe Talbot at the Yale Center for the Study of Globalization. Early career. After graduating from law school, Sullivan clerked for Judge Guido Calabrese of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit and then for Justice Stephen Breyer of the United States Supreme Court. After his clerkships, Sullivan returned to his hometown of Minneapolis to practice law at Fager and Benson and taught law as an adjunct professor at the University of St. Thomas School of Law. After Fager and Benson, Sullivan worked as chief counsel to Senator Amy Klobuchar, who connected him to Clinton. Obama administration. In 2008, Sullivan was an advisor to Hillary Clinton during the primary cycle and then to Barack Obama during the general election campaign. He prepared Clinton and Obama for debates. When Clinton became Secretary of State, Sullivan joined as her deputy chief of staff and director of policy planning, and he traveled with her to 112 countries. Sullivan worked in the Obama administration as deputy assistant to the president and national security advisor to U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. He became Biden's top security aide in February 2013 after Clinton stepped down as Secretary of State. In those posts, he played a role in shaping U.S. foreign policy towards Libya, Syria, and Myanmar. On June 20, 2014, The New York Times reported that Sullivan was leaving the administration in August 2014 to teach at Yale Law School. As of 2020, he was a non-resident senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Iran nuclear negotiations. In November 2013, the Associated Press reported that officials in the Obama administration had been in secret contact with Iranian officials throughout 2013 about the feasibility of an agreement over the Iranian nuclear program. The report stated that American officials, including Deputy Secretary of State William Burns, senior White House Iran advisor Puneet Talwar, and Sullivan, had secretly met with their Iranian counterparts at least 5 times face-to-face in Oman. Those efforts paved the way for the Geneva Interim Agreement on the Iranian nuclear program, known officially as the Joint Plan of Action, signed by Iran and the P5+1 countries in Geneva, Switzerland, on November 24, 2013. Since then, Sullivan has regularly attended bilateral consultations with Iran in Geneva as a member of the U.S. delegation on the Iran nuclear negotiations. 2016 Clinton presidential campaign. Sullivan was Hillary Clinton's chief foreign policy advisor during her 2016 bid for the presidency. He was reported to be the only senior staffer who kept on asking if it wasn't a good idea for her to spend more time in the Midwestern swing states as the election approached. Sullivan was prominent in many of the Podesta emails released by WikiLeaks during the 2016 U.S. presidential election, including Sullivan questioning if Democratic primary candidate Martin O'Malley's 100% clean energy by 2050 plan was realistic. After the election, he confessed to feeling a keen sense of responsibility for Clinton's defeat. Between 2016 and 2020 campaigns after his work with the Clinton campaign, Sullivan joined Macro Advisory Partners, a risk advisory company, in January 2017. Sullivan was paid at least $135,000 by Macro Advisory Partners. While at the London-based advisory firm Macro Advisory Partners, Sullivan advised a number of companies including Uber. Following the Clinton campaign, he joined the Carsey School of Public Policy at the University of New Hampshire as a member of the faculty and senior fellow. Between 2017 and May 2020, Sullivan served on an advisory council for Microsoft. In 2020, he was paid $45,000 for this work. Given Sullivan's role in crafting U.S. cybersecurity policy in the Biden administration, including overseeing the government's response to January's cyber attack on Microsoft, concerns have been raised about potential conflicts of interest. Biden administration. On November 22, 2020, Sullivan was announced as President-elect Joe Biden's choice to be National Security Advisor. Upon his appointment, Sullivan stated that the early priorities of Biden's National Security Council, NSC, are the COVID-19 pandemic, restructuring the NSC to make public health a permanent national security priority, and China relations. He also emphasized that the Biden administration aimed to repair American relations with allies that he regarded as being damaged during the Trump administration. One of Sullivan's themes in the job is connecting U.S. actions on the world stage to the lives and welfare of ordinary Americans, with the mantra of a foreign policy for the middle class. After the fall of Kabul to the Taliban, Sullivan said that the collapse of the government of Afghanistan occurred because at the end of the day, despite the fact we spent 20 years and tens of billions of dollars to give the best equipment, the best training and the best capacity to the Afghan National Security Forces, we could not give them the will, and they ultimately decided that they would not fight for Kabul and they would not fight for the country. However, Brett Brune, director of global engagement in the Obama White House, called for his dismissal over his role in the affair. On September 28, 2021, Sullivan met in Saudi Arabia with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to discuss the 2021 global energy crisis and Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen. They also discussed the potential deal to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. On October 6, 2021, a high-level meeting between Sullivan and top Chinese diplomat, CCP Politburo member Yang Jiechi in Zurich, Switzerland, focused on a number of contentious aspects of Chinese-American relations, including the existence of Taiwan, trade disputes, the COVID-19 origin theories, as well as civic freedoms in Hong Kong. Despite continued differences between the two nations on these issues, both sides agreed to continue their cooperation, in the spirit of fair and peaceful competition. On October 25, 2021, Sullivan was briefed by Pentagon officials on the full range of military options to ensure that Islamic Republic of Iran would not be able to produce a nuclear weapon. On November 7, 2021, Sullivan stated that the U.S. does not pursue system change in China anymore, marking a clear break from the China policy pursued by previous U.S. administrations. On February 11, 2022, Sullivan publicly warned about the likelihood of a Russian invasion of Ukraine prior to the end of the 2022 Winter Olympics, urging all Americans to leave Ukraine immediately and indicating that there may be no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation once the invasion commences. Linked Durham investigation. In November 2021, Sullivan was identified as the foreign policy advisor named in the John Durham indictment against Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman by two well-placed sources. The indictment raised questions about whether Sullivan's testimony before Congress was truthful. However, Durham has made no indication that Sullivan is a target of the investigation. Personal life. Sullivan is married to Margaret Goodlander, who was a former advisor to Senators Joe Lieberman and John McCain and law clerk to then Chief Judge Merrick Garland and Justice Stephen Breyer. References. External links. Media related to Jake Sullivan at Wikimedia Commons. Quotations related to Jake Sullivan at Wikiquote. Appearances on C-SPAN. Jake Sullivan O. N. Twitter.